then what happened after that?
So from there, I was already bitten by the programming bug. I wanted to learn more about the backend side, about how coding works, about how things are made. So I started doing as many online tutorials as I could, going through all the forums. Remember, this is like 2005 to 2008, where you don't have all the courses and the online resources that you do today. So it was really difficult to find resources online. So it was hard going through forums and actually having to ask people questions and waiting a few days. Sorry, my camera is being a bit jittery. And waiting a few days to get a response. But eventually scrounged enough data to learn, started doing a lot of web development, started my own web design firm, and started doing freelance web development for a lot of companies across the globe. Did a lot of iOS and Android app development, started learning that. And there was a time that I was spending more time on the computer than in the hospital. And that's when I knew that I wanted to do something in the tech space, the space. I wasn't really sure what, I was still figuring it out. But that's why as soon as I got done with med school, I moved to San Francisco. I was staying at this place called the Hacker House, which is just a collection of people from all over the world, much like myself. They are working at companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft, Lyft, Uber, Dropbox. There were people who had their own startups. They were pitching to VCs. So I would go along with them to these VC pitches, meet all these VCs, understand how startups work, what all you need to do to register a startup, all the legalities, the taxation behind it, just really what a VC does. And what are the different various stages of funding, and why do you need funding? What do you do with that funding? So just understanding and absorbing everything I could from Silicon Valley, the heart of every startup's dream. And that's also where I met my co-founders, along with whom I later moved to LA to start my own social media startup.
Oh, what was that?
So that was a company called Hashtag. It was basically a social media aggregator. So back then, this was in 2014 when you had a lot of social media. So the Vine and Snapchat were really popular back then. So everyone was logging on to different apps, right? You would log on to Twitter, check your notifications, then log on to Instagram, check your stuff, log on to Facebook, then log on to Snapchat, go Vine. You were just bouncing between apps and notifications. So on the front end, we built an app that basically aggregated all of these.
Honestly, in today's world, that still exists as much as then.
It did even back then, more so back then. Now, of course, there are other solutions, but and now people are more loyal to certain social media and they stick on that. At that time, people are still experimenting, right? Because it was all new. Everyone wanted to be everywhere. Now, most people have chosen their social media choice and they spend maximum time in that.
Yeah.
But that's what it was. It aggregated it on the front end. On the back end, it gave us access to all this data, which we are working with advertisers, telling them where they should spend their marketing budgets. So it gave us really keen insight on understanding how the world of social media works.
Okay.
That was our story in LA. After that, I wanted to again formalize. I realized I didn't have any formal education in programming. So I attended this course from this company called General Assembly, which is basically what they call a hacker's boot camp, where they cram 3 years of engineering into 3 months. So you are basically a slave for 3 months. 90 days, you live, eat, sleep, work out of there and just do programming. And they're teaching you nothing else but that. So I think in that duration of 3 months, I churned out almost 15 iOS and Android apps and worked through so many projects and startups. It was just a crazy experience. It was crammed into 90 days.
So how did you find your way back to India after all of this?
Yeah, so this was in 2015, 2016. In 2017, after that, I, of course, went to Stanford Graduate School of Business to do their innovative leadership in campus program. I got done with that in 2017 and came back to India to explore opportunities, whether in tech, whether it's in healthcare, because the startup boom was just happening over here. There were billions of dollars of investments coming in for various types of startups. So I came back, I said, look, I have all this experience from the US. Let me come back and do my own tech company and, I'll raise funding and I'll do something interesting in the startup space. And my goal at that time, I was looking at something between the tech and the healthcare space. So when I came back, I was trying with various startups, meeting different VCs, pitching different ideas, trying to get a team together to do something in the health space. And that's really when Global Esports happened. When TI7 was announced, they said there's a $25 million tournament happening for Dota 2. And I called up my best friend Mohit and I was like, bro, we used to play this game back in the day for like 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees. It has evolved now to $25 million. Imagine if we just stayed on, right? It possibly could have been you and me on stage, right? Every person wants to think that they can get to the highest tier of gameplay.
Of course, yeah.
Fine, we're not going to play the tournament. Let's at least watch it together. So he said, yeah, sure, let's do like a reunion. Let's get the old gang back together. So we started texting all the people that we used to play Dota with back in the day. And we said, let's do a pub storm. Let's all watch it together. right? And all of them got really excited. And within a day, we had about 30, 35 people that wanted to watch. And I was like, bro, there's no way I'm hosting 35 people at my house. Like, that's a house party I'm just not willing to host.
Yeah.
So we started looking for alternate locations. And then we had the bright idea to approach a traditional sports bar, since they already had the sound equipment, the projector, everything to showcase any traditional sport. We thought we'd just plug in our laptop and watch it as it would, right? But it wasn't that easy, obviously, because it was a Saturday night and very few bars were willing to let us close their regular operations for us to watch video games.
Okay.
Okay.
And how open were they to the idea of actually hosting an esports event though? No?
Not at all, because they said it's a Saturday night, right? I mean, most bars and clubs are absolutely packed. They don't need to be hosting video games and driving away the regular audience.
Yeah, that's true.
So they were in fact quite apprehensive about doing it. Then we finally found a place that said, sure, you can use it, but you have to book the entire space. So it's like your private event and no one else will be allowed inside, and then you can do it. Like, we need a minimum guarantee of 100 people.
Yeah.
So Mohit and I looked at each other. We're like, okay, we have to figure this out. We need 100 people. We're at 35 now. So we went to the Dota 2 community on Facebook and we made a poll and said, we plan to host this pub stop. It's just a bunch of fans that want to watch the game together. Who's interested? And within a day, we had 250 RSVPs.
Wow.
And we're like, holy shit, there's a demand for this, right? Like, we never imagined that the community would have wanted this, because we just wanted to watch the game. That's all. Like, for us, it was just about wanting to watch the game together on a Saturday night, probably have a couple of drinks, order some food, just chill out. A regular Saturday night, just watching the game you love with your friends.
Yeah.
And it turns out a lot of people wanted the same experience. There were people willing to travel from Pune, from Vapi, from Bangalore. There were people that came from Hyderabad. Like, I was absolutely shocked that there were these 18, 19-year-old kids traveling to a different city to watch a video game together.
Yeah, wow, that's so unexpected.
It's something that I had not imagined, right? Because I was very closely connected to the gaming world, as in I played a lot, but I was never part of the community, as in I never went to all these events, right? Because I was in US all this time.
Yeah.
So it was just amazing for me to watch. And that's when Mohit and me had this bright idea. We're like, wow, like, we have this entire event that's popped around from you and me wanting to watch the game. And then Red Bull approached us and they said, we'll sponsor part of the event. We'll give free cans to everyone that's there the entire night. Then, Steel Series came on board and said, we'll give free mouse pads to anyone that comes. All they have to do is, hashtag Steel Series and tweet about it. And there was a merchandise stall that was set up. There was a local cafe that came and set up a 1v1 tournament, there between the games. And all of a sudden, from us just wanting to watch the game, it was an event.
This was all at the same event?
Yes, this was all at the same event. And this was all in a span of 4 days.
Wow, that's incredible.
So we keep joking around. Like, we never meant to start Global Esports. Like, it was an accidental startup. We had no intention of doing a startup and setting up an esports organization and having teams. It was just a bunch of gamers that wanted to watch the game with fellow gamers. That's it.
Yeah. So
it was as simple as that.
So how did you turn the one day?
That's what it was, right? For us, it ended over there. We actually, like, for us, after that event, we're like, okay, cool. Haha, we had this one pub storm. Great. Let's go back to our normal lives. I went back to the hospital the next day. Mohit, as a filmmaker, went back to his filmmaking career, went back to Bollywood, continued making his movies. And that's when we started getting emails from other brands saying that, oh, we didn't realize that you had such an event. It was really short notice for us. When's the next one? We would love to sponsor it. And we started getting emails from people that attended saying that, oh, are you going to do the same thing for a CSGO major? Are you going to do it for the Overwatch World Cup? Are you going to host like the League of Legends Worlds? And suddenly Mohit and I were like, wait, there's an actual demand for this. Like, and it's not just Dota, right? It's for all the other sports as well. So we started hosting smaller such events. And then an Overwatch team approached me saying that they were falling 1% short to compete in our teams. I used to play Overwatch competitively at the time. As in, I was just climbing the ladder. Every time I would come home from the hospital, get bored, I would log on and play Overwatch. Like, that was just my escape from my day-to-day. And I ended up getting really good at the game. So a team approached me and said, we want someone to fill in for us and play a few games that competing in this tournament. So I was like, sure, I'm not really good, but I don't mind giving it a shot. And we ended up doing really well. And then actually I went with them to play a LAN tournament. And then they told me, so they were sponsored by this cafe in Chennai. And they told me that the cafe was shutting down because it wasn't doing so well. So they were going to disband the team. I was like, don't disband the team. How much money is it? What do you all need funding for? They said it's primarily just when we travel for LAN tournaments. That's about it. So it's just travel and accommodation. And that's all we need. And the cafe was taking part of the prize money, so they could cover that amount and they would pay it upfront. I was like, okay, I'll do the same thing. Like, don't worry about it. We've set up this little thing called Global Esports, which we're doing gaming events for. We'll sponsor it. We'll come on board as a sponsor for the team. So
Yeah.
we started sponsoring the team and I was playing in it. Eventually, I got really busy at the hospital. They found another player and they started getting really good at the game. They started competing in more tournaments, winning more LAN tournaments, started competing in international tournaments. And that's when we rebranded the team to Global Esports. And, we started funding everything for the team, got jerseys printed, and suddenly we had an esports team that was competing in tournaments.
Yeah.
And when we competed for Asia Cup in Singapore, that's when we got introduced to a few Singaporean teams over there. They said, we love what you've done with this team in India, where you came on board, you supported them, you covered their travel and accommodation, you got them the gear that they needed, you got a coach on board. Can you do the same thing for us? We were
Nice.
like, sure, why not? And we did the same thing for them. And then they got really good at the game. They became the best team in Singapore, started competing in larger Asia level tournaments, and we got introduced to South Korea. And more than I went to South Korea and we started scouting talent over there and set up an Overwatch team in South Korea. And
Yeah.
we started recruiting and set up a Fortnite team in South Korea. Then we set up our boot camp in South Korea. And things just started snowballing. And it came to this point that we had 5 teams across the globe with international players who we are paying salaries for. We had a coach, we had a boot camp. And more than I was like, okay, dude, we have an actual business at our hands. This is a startup that we were looking for. Like we were just doing it as a hobby on the side, as we've done every other project like the Ragnarok server and multiple projects that we worked on. So Mohit and I also worked on side projects when it came to Mohit's filmmaking, right? It just went from one other hobby project to expanding to the point that we were paying salary and, supporting so many teams and players that we were like, okay, we need to take this a little more seriously, spend some more time. So in August of 2018, Mohit quit his job as a filmmaker. I quit my full-time job as a doctor. And we started doing this, and understanding how to run this as a business. We incorporated and registered in the end of November, so almost first week of December in 2018. So now it's been about 15 months that we've been operating. We have 12 teams across the globe and spread across 12 different countries with different players. It's spread across 9 esports titles. We have close to about 100 people in the company, including players, the support staff, analysts, coaches. We have, our editors. We have a cinematographer. We have an entire production team that goes along with it. We have freelancers. We have contractors. We have content creators that we work with on a day-to-day basis that are exclusively signed to us, as well as some non-exclusive ones. So we've suddenly grown into this esports ecosystem, and